started because my prayer this entire week has been exactly that. Have your way with me. Take me out of the equation completely. I did not want to come up here and make it about me or anything that I have to say. It's funny because that goes completely contrary to everything that they teach us where I work. I teach for a living, and the first thing that I'm supposed to do here is sell myself to you guys. Make you guys see why you should be listening to me. You know, I have so much studies, and you know, I've studied the Bible for so many years. I'm taking classes for this and that, and scrap all that. I remove myself from the equation, and the purpose is for God to speak to you as I'm up here today. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Sorry, brother, I hate to cut you off.
Okay.
Folks, may I have your seat? Let me share a little bit about what our brother here in our days, man, after getting this information. Praise the Lord. Education-wise, I studied New and Old Testament through Baylor, Baptist Christian Counseling through Liberty University. I'm about to finish this master's in education. Praise the Lord. Ministry since 2005. Started, I'm going to say it like a Hawaiian word, Awana, but it's not. What is that AWA stand for?
Awana, it's a lot acronym, one of those many acronyms about serving God, like children.
As a commander. Served in 2 church boards, served as Sunday school director, served as small group leader. His other interesting facts is his original job was in the Air Force. He's in the Air Force, and he works with bombs. Oh, praise the Lord. And he did not grow up in a Christian home. I think his kids say that he's a UFO investigator. But church, let's give our brother a warm applause.
Well, I guess I got my introduction anyway, so. I'm trying to get my slides up there. Well, we get the slides up. Thank you, brother, for that introduction that I was trying to avoid. But the message today is choices and why choices matter. As I studied this week and I looked at what God was placing in my heart to speak to you all about, this became clear that this was the message that He wanted me to bring to you guys. As I studied it, I ran into some issues. You can guess that the main issue was, the guy delivering this message to you guys kept getting in the way. See, the way I look at things, I'm very black and white. My wife will tell you that sometimes I can seem like I'm a little bit judgmental when I talk about things. For my kids here that have had the pleasure, if I can say that, to be in my classes, they know what I'm talking about. Sometimes I can come off a little harsh. So that was a struggle as I was preparing for this week, but like we said, I'm moving myself and God is taking it, so I'm looking forward to see what He does with this. If you can all read, please read with me. Matthew 7, verse 13 to 14. Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate, and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. This is our main verse today, and we're going to expand on it. I like the New Living Translation. If you have a New Living Translation, or if you, like me, have one of these technical tools, you can look it up. The New Living Translation is a little different. It reads like this: you can enter God's kingdom only, I like that, only through the narrow gate. The highway to hell is broad. I like that distinction too. Before we heard destruction, now they're making it more clear what that destruction means, which is, hell. That's what we can go up hard, so I'm going to And his gate is wide for many who choose this way. That's part of what God placed in my heart to emphasize today. The gate is wide because there is many that are going to be walking through that gate. And why is that? But the gateway to life is very narrow. Very, what's that correct word in English? You have an adjective and you emphasize that adjective. Well, I'm a teacher and I can tell you that's pretty bad. Making a point, very narrow. It's really small. When something is very narrow, it's hard to get in. It's difficult for us to navigate through. It says the road is difficult and only, once again, only a few will find it. Okay. So, last time I checked, I think the population census for the world today is 7 billion and a couple hundred million in there for good measure. That's 7 million people. That's a lot of people. And we have those two choices. We have the wide gate and we have the narrow, difficult road. So we're going to talk about those choices. Like I said, as I read through and I studied through this message, a lot of things came to my head. And to be honest with you, before I studied this verse in preparation to deliver this message to you guys, I saw this verse in a selfish way. What do I mean? Selfish in the sense that it was about me. I know there's a big gate where everybody's going, but how do I get to that small gate? How do I get myself saved? How do I do this for me? God opened my eyes to see it in a different way before I came here with you guys. So we're going to expand on that. What does that mean? Okay. How will we choose? That's the question. We obviously have that choice, but how do we choose which way we're going to go? Any other movie geeks in here? Am I the only one that watches a lot of movies? I love movies, my wife will tell you. One of my old favorite movies is Forrest Gump. Thank you, Derek. Yeah. Forrest Gump. One of the famous quotes from Forrest Gump is about the box of chocolates. You guys remember that one? I'm going to make my best impression with a Puerto Rican accent. Forrest Gump. A southern Puerto Rican. What do you say? Life like lots of chocolates. Never know what you're gonna get. And now I'm gonna ruin it for you. Because I don't agree. If life is like a box of chocolates, then the choice is a lot easier than we think. When he picked that box of chocolates, you don't pick a chocolate at random, do you? When you look at that box of chocolates, the first thing I do is I look for the really dark ones. I like dark chocolate, so there you go. I know I'm shooting. There you go, Derek. You're on me today, huh? So that's first. I look for that. Then I cheat a little bit more. I look for, the little sign. Oh, that one's got an almond. I can see it. So I know what I'm getting. Dark chocolate with almond. And if I'm really curious and I really want to know, because some of those I got that nasty gooey stuff inside. Then I flip to the back of the box, and it tells me right there what each chocolate looks like and what's inside. So, do we really not know what we're going to get? Okay, we do. But the point is, you have to look at the back of the box. You have to look at that chocolate. You have to purposely seek, want to know, get informed about that choice that you're about to make. Okay. And we can get away from that fact. That is the reality. People want to say otherwise. But that is the case. And I'm getting into that judgmental side. My wife is looking at me. So let's move on. Choices every day. Every day we make choices. We make choices. We choose to get up. Or maybe we hit that snooze button another 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Right? Okay. We choose what we're going to wear. And many of you have told me how different I look because I'm not wearing flippers today and shorts. That was a choice that I made today. We choose what car we want to buy and what we want to buy. We choose what job we want to do. We choose many different things. Every single day we make choices, and with those choices comes something that we often don't think about or don't want to think about, which is the consequences of those choices. If I chose to come up here today and deliver this message to you guys in shorts, slippers, and a t-shirt, that would have been okay because you guys are pretty awesome. And that's the truth. I love this church because of the way that you guys are. You guys are so non-judgmental and so open to everybody. But I made a different choice because what I feel that I'm representing and what I feel that I'm doing, I made a different choice. Consequences. Whatever we do today is going to affect what happens tomorrow. Okay? Maybe for us, or maybe not. Maybe for those kids next to you. Okay? Choices that we make today affect what Josh is going to have to go through, live through tomorrow, 10 years from now. We have to think about that. Hundreds of choices every day. Another big thing that God placed on me to emphasize is that not only do we make these choices, because some of you might be thinking, okay, yeah, choices, but God is the master and creator of everything. He's the one that says what's going to happen. So how much of that is really my choice? Anybody here ever thought about that? I think about that all the time. Every time I read the Bible, every time I see anything, that's the first thing that pops into my mind. But as I have studied the Bible, as He has given me clarity, I come to see that yes, that's true. God decides what's going to happen. But the difference is, I make the choice of how I'm going to go through that. Whatever the situation is, whatever it is that I'm going through, I choose, I decide, I'm going to walk through that, whatever the case might be. That is huge. We have to acknowledge that. We cannot ignore that. So we're going to expand on that. Some examples of choices. We know all the stories in the Bible. If we start from the beginning, we can go back to the story that we all know about Adam and Eve. Right? We all know the story about Adam and Eve, fairly simple. You know, they chose to eat from the forbidden fruit. Some people say an apple, some people now say that it was something else. It doesn't matter. They made that choice. And because they made that choice, we are here today. Because every one of us lives in sin because of a choice that they made. So that's one example. What about Abraham? Abraham, one of the big kahunas in the Bible, right? God said, go. I will give you lots of people to get nations. But he was pretty comfortable where he was, wasn't he? He had land, he had riches for what riches was at that time. He was comfortable, he was good, he was old, he didn't have kids. But Jesus said, go. God said, go. And he decided to obey. He chose and he went. But along the way, something happened, right? You guys remember the story of Abraham? He was supposed to have this kid and grow this big nation, but he got tired waiting. Some people started doing this, which we can all relate to, right? And then the result was his son Ishmael. Consequences. Who knows where the line of Ishmael led to? Ishmael, the line of Ishmael progressed just like the line of David progressed into Jesus. The line of Ishmael progressed all the way through the Prophet Muhammad. We have Islam and Muslim religion because of that choice. Consequence. Here we are. Many thousands of years ago. Repeat that. What about King David? Man after God's own heart. We all know the stories, right? Man after God's own heart. It's highlighted that he is the King of Kings. Correct? All good choices. Faithful man until Bathsheba. And we know what happened there, right? Once again, he fell into temptation. He made a wrong choice. Because of that choice, a lot of bad things happened. People died. And luckily, we have a forgiving God. And he came back. And we learned a lot from him. So those are just a couple of examples. I have to finish up with one more that we all know about, which is Moses. We all know the story of Moses. Another big one on choices here because I can relate to Moses in many ways. As I stand here talking to you guys, I can hear my accent, because when I speak in front of people, my accent comes out. Yeah, I know you know this. So that's one. I'm not a people person, believe it or not. My wife would tell you. She's a people person, but she hates being highlighted, so now she's going like, I'm going to get you later. So I'm not a people person in that sense, but I felt God's calling. I know that this is what God wants me to do, and here I am doing it, even though I don't feel that I'm the most adequate person to do the job. Moses made some wrong choices too. If you remember, Moses killed someone. He fell into anger and he murdered somebody. He had to go into exile, consequences. But then God came to him and told him this, and he told God, just like I can sit here and tell you all the reasons why I'm not the right person. And God said, yeah, go do it. Get my people out. And he chose to obey. And we all know the story. He got his people out of 400 plus years of enslavement. All the miracles that he performed just because he made that choice. Once again, God made all those things happen, but every single one of those individuals had to choose how they would go through that situation, how they would see what they were about to go through. Okay. Every single one of them. It's all about that choice. Real quick, trivia question. Just to line things up. These guys that we're about to talk about, the two men at the cross, who here would give me a guess as to what gang they thought that they belonged? They were criminals, right? And at the time, many scholars think that these two belonged to a particular gang or group. Who knows who that is? What gang that would be? The Crips. I'll give you an A for effort, but no Crips back then. I'm pretty sure. That was West Side. No, it wasn't the Crips. Anybody else?
Lots.
Okay, so if it's not the Crips, it's the Blood. Yeah, no, Derek, thank you. Anybody else? Yes. Okay, that is correct. And it's one of those words that I can't pronounce very good. It was Barrabas. I pronounce it in Spanish, Barrabas. There you go. See, she got the trivia, she wins something. Yeah! I knew they're like Oprah. And if you look under your seats, no car keys. That's one of the making a difference magnets. If you guys have been to our church website lately, you'll notice that there's a link for a store where you can buy the church t-shirts and stuff like that. So that's where that came from. I purchased that to help Brian and Terry out. But she gets that magnet. So yeah, Barabbas, the two guys that we're going to talk about, to the left and to the right. And that's those two guys, out of all the ones that we have talked about, those two guys are going to be my focus for today, for the Word. I mean, we have talked about Moses, Adam and Eve, King David, all these huge figures, right? Listen. But these two are paramount to our message today and all this choice stuff that we are talking about. These two individuals, criminals, convicted criminals, that were crucified the same day at the same time as Jesus was crucified. Okay. Two other men, both criminals. So they were not good guys, they were evil people, like I said. Barabbas, crew. So they stole, they killed, they incited insurrection, that kind of stuff. They were also let out to be executed. When they came to the place called the Skull, they crucified him there, along with the criminals. One on his right, the other on his left. One on his right, the other on his left. Obviously, both of these individuals have made a series of choices that have placed them. They have stolen, they have killed, they have done bad things that earned them that spot. crucifixion. We know about crucifixion that at the time it was the worst possible death that you could get. That's why they did it the way they did it. That's what was so public. I said it right. I didn't say public, like my kids make fun of it. See, God is working. It was painful, it was excruciating. Everybody feared it. That's why they did it the way they did, so publicly and such a statement. In that time, these two individuals were going to make a choice. We are all faced with difficult situations. However, the choices that they have made up to this point were not it. They still have one more choice that they were about to make. And that choice that they made had a lot to do with how they decided to look at their current situation. Stake at the cross, bleeding, tortured, in pain. I can think of a worse case scenario. And they made choices, and the choices were different. But the good news is that just like that, we have choices. And those choices are actually fairly simple. We have two choices. When I was preparing for this message, I remember a situation where I was little and Pastor Gordon, gave me some inputs for my message. He said it's really good if you weave in there some personal experience that the church can relate to. So this is my attempt to do that. As Pastor said, you can see that I'm following direction. But I think it was 10th grade, beginning of 10th grade, when I was faced with one of these choices that we were talking about that could have changed my life completely. I would not be here today had I chosen differently. This particular day, 10th grade, young kid, I go to school just like any other day. And for some reason, these two guys, actually not for some reason, I kind of instigated the situation a little bit, not on purpose. Anyways, these two guys decided they're going to fight me in the morning before school starts. So I get in a fight with them. We do get out for a good while, and I beat them up. That felt pretty good. But I broke the guy's nose, and I felt pretty good. It was pretty bad. I go to school, and lo and behold, what I did not know is that those two guys were pretty well connected. In Puerto Rico, we don't have the Bloods or the Crips. We don't have gangs like that. But what we do have is lots and lots of drugs. Okay? So these two guys were connected to the drug people that supply the school. So they had just lost faith, and you know that you can't have that. Especially not in Puerto Rico, everybody has to be more macho than everybody else. That just can't happen. Okay, so they made it a point that we were going to fight again at the end of the day. Typical movie, end of the day, outside of school. I knew I was done. I knew how things are done in Puerto Rico. That's the way they get you. You think you're going to go fight one guy when you step out, there is a whole crowd of them waiting for you. I knew exactly what I was getting into. I also knew that I could not run. They would find me. They would get me. Here I'll just step out and deal with this. That was not one of my choices. But then as I'm stepping out, a friend of mine, Rudy, he gives me a knife. He gave me a box cutter. And he tells me, cut him up, make him pay. That was a choice. I could have gone into that crowd with that knife and cut my way out. That was my choice. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I thought about it. I like knives. It did cross my mind. Especially when I'm walking out, I see this crowd, this entire school is out there. I see in the middle of the crowd a big circle of really big guys in civilian clothes. I say that because in Puerto Rico, we go to public education, we have uniforms. Those guys were bigger than all the other students, and they were not wearing uniforms. So that told me two things. They're probably the drug guys, they're people, and they were not students. And in the middle were the two guys that I was supposed to fight. So yeah, I see how this is going to go. So I have that knife in my pocket, I step in. As soon as I step in, those guys jump in, and I start fighting those two guys. As soon as I start getting the upper hand, that circle just closed in. Punches, kicks, I'm getting beat up. It felt like forever. I guess it was only like a minute or two, but it felt like forever to me. I remember as I stepped in that circle and I had that knife in my pocket. I was saved maybe 2 years before that. I got and he said, don't come from a Christian household. I was saved. I remember some of those messages. Proverbs 22:6 tells us that you teach a child the way that they should go. And when that time comes, they will not depart from it, right? They will remember. That day I remembered. As I'm stepping in and I know what's coming, I remember like it is today. I close my eyes and for a brief second I pray, God, walk in there with me. Be with me. I get chills. Because I stepped in there and 20 plus guys were beating on me for a couple of minutes, and you know the kind of damage that can happen in that time frame if you've ever been in a fight. Next thing I know, I feel a hand grab me by the neck, pull me out, and I see this cop with a baton just beating guys up, getting me out of there. I walked out of there with some bumps and bruises, no cuts, no major damage, nothing. God walked in there with me. God pulled me out. And because of God, I'm here today. Now, if I had chosen differently, if I had gone in there with my knife and started cutting people, maybe severely hurt somebody, maybe even kill somebody, how do you think that cop would have reacted that day? Chances are, I tell you for a fact, I would have had a record, which means I would not have joined the Air Force, which means I probably would not be married and I would not be here today. Choices. I made a choice. Choices are very significant, very impacting. We all have different situations. I'm not saying that, Josh, if you ever get in school and go into a fight, you have to, anything like that. Hopefully you won't. Avoid it. Walk away if you can. That's a much better choice. But let's reflect on that for a moment. The word is very clear. One thing that we can get away from is that when it comes to these choices, Matthew 6:24 says that no man can serve two masters. This is one of my favorite Bible passages, one that speaks to me every single day, and one that my wife talks to me about all the time because it's where I come off judgment. And it's just you keep highlighting in front of everybody. So, there's no gray area. When we look at choices this way, two choices, you can only serve one or two masters. Either you are serving our Lord Jesus Christ or you're serving the other side. When you look at things that way, things become very clear, very simple. I like things simple. But we live in a world that likes things very complicated on purpose. The world doesn't want you to look at serving one of two masters. The world wants you to live in a world where there's this huge gray area in the middle that, depending on the situation, you can say, yeah, stealing is bad, but if, there goes that word, if my kids are hungry, I'm going to steal to feed them. Because that's okay. No, it's not. God is clear. Nobody can serve two masters. In what we teach, there's a lesson in ethics where we have this exercise where we expound on this. And we divide the class. We have all these scenarios where they have to choose and they move to the room depending on what the situation is. And we get to expose that. How that bias has been ingrained in our brain by society that we can justify just about anything and it doesn't matter. Because of what we do in the Air Force, we don't have that choice. We have to be, and I know that if you have seen the news, you know that there's a lot of people that don't quite follow that. But we have to be above and beyond that because of our business. We have to follow that ethical rule. They call it ethical relativity. It's an actual theory out there, which you can make everything relative. That's the way that the world out there operates. But that's not the way God wants us to think. You cannot do a little bit of bad for a good cause. No one can serve two masters. So let us go back to this two individuals. So we see these two individuals. Let's say it. This is the guy on the cross to the right, and the other one is the guy on the cross to the left. And let's see how differently they decided to look at things. Luke 23:39. Luke 23:39 shows us one of these thieves, one of these crew members of Barnabas' crew, that rebukes God. Aren't you the Messiah? He's challenging God. Aren't you supposed to be this big guy, the Son of God that has all this power? Do we see people today that talk like that? Challenge God and say, if God is so good, why does He allow these things to happen? Save yourself. Save us. This man was full of anger, full of hate, sarcasm. Some people say that he was insane at this point because of all the pain that he had gone through. Doing this particular situation, being staked to the cross, bleeding, tortured, hanging here, suffocating on his own fluids. That will drive anybody insane, so I'll give him that. So that's how he decided to approach this situation. Then we have the other individual. Same individual, same type of situation, another criminal that had been crucified next to God, that had gone through the same torture. Crucified on the cross, hanging there, suffering. But a little bit different. Automatically, as soon as that other guy said that, this guy rebuked him. The other one rebuked him, the cross to the left. Don't you fear God? So he's acknowledging that God is there, this criminal. Since you are under the same sentence, we are punished justly. We are getting what our deeds deserve. We are getting what we deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong. This man has done nothing wrong. Then he said this, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Remember me when you come into your kingdom. Acknowledging, accepting that Jesus was, he said he was, the Son of God, Christ. Chances are this man knew about Jesus, knew about the miracles that he had made. Okay? And at this particular time, he acknowledged this man was here for no reason of his own, for no fault of his own. Yet, he has chosen to endure this pain and this suffering for me, which I deserve it. Because of that choice, that day, this man that was a thief, a murderer, God knows what else. You guys remember Jesus replied to him? Today you will be with me, my son. He made that choice at that time, and that was it. He was saved. That's why I relate so much to these two guys on the cross. Because we are here every day. Every day we make a choice. We choose one way or the other. No man can serve two masters. We choose. And we can choose to rebuke God. Why are you doing this to me? Why are we going through this? Really? You can do this, then do this? And we want to tell God what He needs to do. Isn't that funny? How we think like that all the time? And I'm not judging because I've been there many times. What I have learned. I remember Pastor's mail message last week. It spoke to me very powerful. Especially the message that he kept going back into to rest in Him. To find rest in God. Everything that I go through, everything that I do, I can't do it. I got too much on my plate. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. Rest in God. I'm preparing for this message and I got 50 things going on at work and at home and everything else. Rest in God. Proverbs 3:5 tells us, rest in God. Trust in God. Not in your own understanding, not in your own power. Rest in God. What a difference between those two individuals. Both crucified, both criminals, both part of the same cribs. But both completely different view of the situation. How does that compare to those other guys that we talked about? Abraham, David, those big figures of the Bible, right? Here we got two criminals. and the last moment. And we see the same fate in one thing as those big behemoths in the Bible. We see these figures in the Bible, and we, when I say we, I say me, a lot of times think, how can I ever compare? I'm not a Moses, I'm not a David. Neither were those two criminals, the guy to the right, the guy to the left. Yet they chose. One chose to believe, one chose to rebuke. One chose the wide gate that everybody's following. The other one decided to choose the difficult road and believe, trust in God. These choices are crucial. You know, he earned his way to heaven in a way. So with that, we go back to this verse one more time. Let's look at it after what we have seen in his word. Enter to the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction. Many who enter through it I'm a little emotional sometimes, guys. When I think about that, I can't help it. Many who went through it. When I was going through school, I can tell you there are two guys that I know from me growing up that are still alive. One of them is not doing too good, he's doing drugs still. And the other one is okay. Out of everybody that I knew, so many people made their own choice. When we look out there, what do we see? So many people, 7 billion people in this world, and most of them are not going to make it. All those people around us choose the world over him. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. Anybody else thinking a few? How many is a few? What is a few? And who thinks that a few is acceptable? You guys think that God is satisfied with a few of us coming to him, believing in him, and being saved? God wants all of us. But it's right here in his word. God is telling us that's not the case. That is not going to be the case. Only a few will make it. Let's see. What do the world tells us out there? Here in Hawaii, something very popular, YOLO. Connor, what is YOLO? You only live once. So it doesn't matter. Go out there, have fun, do whatever you want because you only live once, brother. Sunday, go to church. You see the ladies. You only live once, brother. Have fun. That's the world around us. That is the reality. Now, what if I told you that I do live YOLO? And just flip it up a little bit. You only live once. Make sure you make the right choice. Because you only get a chance. You only live once. And that's not the case. Some of those things every day that we deal with. And yes, I'm guilty of some of these too. You know, we choose what we spend our time on. We choose what we do. Facebook, how many of us have Facebook? TV, PlayStation, or Xbox. How much time do we spend on each one of these things? Too much time. Thank you, brother. That's true. I find myself guilty of that sometimes. I have a difficult day. I have a tough time at work. I want to get home and just watch some brainless TV and not think about anything. Next thing I know, 3 to 4 hours have passed by, and I don't know what has happened. It's easy. It's easy. That's why the road is wide. That's why it's broad. That's why so many people are heading down that road. Alright. This is the purpose of keeping it light. I got another trivia for you guys. Or another making a difference magnet. Who can tell me what library There's a library here in the United States that is collecting every single tweet on Twitter and storing it in their library. Who can tell me what that library is? On Twitter Geek? Library of Congress. Did you know that? Yeah, every single tweet is being stored in the Library of Congress. Just in case. If you guys have a Twitter account, remember what you put on it. In light of what we just heard this week, doesn't matter. I won't go there. Okay. Small is the gate, narrow is the gate. What does that tell us? What's the difference between all this and that? If we are walking, if we're going through the small and narrow gate, then our time is spent a little bit different. Spending time in prayer, spending time in the Word, spending time with each other for what we're doing. That's the difference. There's a song by Brandon Heath. I heard it many times this week as I was preparing to this. Give me your eyes. I love that song. I recommend that you guys listen to that song this week and think about those words. I'm not going to sing it like Pastor does, but I'm going to read a little bit of the lyrics. All those people going somewhere, why have I never cared? Give me your eyes for just 1 second. Give me your eyes so I can see everything that I've been missing. Give me your love for humanity. And the song keeps on going. All those people going somewhere, going to that wide, narrow road. Why have we not cared enough to reach out to them and to show them the real way? What more can we do to bring them here so that they're here with us on a day like today, hearing His Word, getting closer to Him, looking at that narrow door and saying, yeah, there's the door that I want to go through. It might not be the easy door, but that's the one that I want to head through. Choosing Jesus is not always the most popular choice, at least in the world's eyes, but it's not the easiest. Sometimes you feel like you're all alone. Anybody here ever feel like that? Like you're all alone? Matthew 6:21. Matthew 6:21. Another Bible verse that is precious to me. Store up your treasures up in heaven, where your heart is. Where your heart is. What do you treasure? If this is what we show the world that we love, we spend all our time playing games, playing sports, instead of going to peer group or going to team group or going to church, we're going to games and we're playing games and we're watching movies and we're surfing and we know all that stuff, then what do we treasure? God tells us right here, that's what we are showing, that's where our heart is. I'm not being judgmental here, because I'm trying not to. Because I've been there many times. But that's one of those things that is hard to sugarcoat. If I spend all my time doing all kinds of other things, and I never come home and tell my wife I love her, and show her that I love her by some things that I do or say, then do I really love her? Or do I love all those other things? We're not alone, guys. We're not alone. The road is never going to be easy. He tells us right there, the road is narrow and it's difficult. But Jesus is never going to give us more than we can handle. And this is the thing. If we make the choice to bring Him with us, if Jesus is with us, it's like Pastor Mel told us, we can find rest. We can deal with it. We need to choose Him. Choose your master. Trust in Him or trust in yourself. That's the choice. Do we trust in God? Or do we trust in ourselves? One way or the other, we're choosing, guys. I had somebody ask me one time, well, if I sit there, I'm not really choosing. Yes, you are. You chose to sit there. The funny thing is, everything is moving around you. I made an example of one of my lessons. I put a little dog, little rubber duckies, in a pool of water, and I let them be. I didn't move it, but guess what happened? The dog moved around. Nobody was moving the dog. You might choose not to do anything, but you're making a choice not to do something. And when that happens, the world is moving around you, things are happening around you, and you're letting it happen because you made that choice. Before we close today, I want to invite you guys to, everybody bow your heads. Just bow your heads and close your eyes. With nobody looking. This next couple of minutes is just you and our Father, you and God. Just between you and Him. Nobody else here. God made a choice. He sent His Son to die for you. That was His choice. Because of that choice, you have this choice today. You can choose to go with the world into that white cave, be all distracted. Keep heading down that way. Or you can choose Him. You can choose to trust in Jesus. You can choose to make Him a priority in your life. There's nobody looking today, guys. Nobody looking to make a choice. If you choose to trust Him, with nobody looking, raise your hand. Just make that statement to yourself, to God. Make that statement today that you choose Him. That you choose to follow Him, to believe in Him, to trust in Him. I see hands. I see many hands. This is you and God. God is waiting for us to make that choice. And once we make that choice, things happen. Things change. We cannot keep it to ourselves. So as you choose to serve Him today, to acknowledge Him, then go out. Go out and reach others so that they are not part of those many that will be lost. Because of your choice, you can go out there. You can reach those individuals and pull them with you to the narrow gate. Thank you, Father. One.
Thank you for that great message. Thank you, Javier. Thanks for that great message. I'd like to ask everyone to please stand for the benediction. And church, as we go out today, let us take heart. Let us strive to always make the right choice for Jesus, even though it's sometimes hard and unpopular. Let us keep the perspective of eternity in mind when making all the choices we make each day, and honor the Lord in our choices. Just know that you are not alone, and God will always be with you, giving you strength and guiding you, and helping you to make the right choices. I'd like to leave you with a benediction that God told Moses to say to the Israelites, but which applies to us as well. It can be found in the book of Numbers, chapter 6, verse 24, and it says, "The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make His face to shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn His face toward you and give you peace." Thank you all for being here today. God bless you. See you next week.